President Muhammadu Buhari has charged the National Council on Climate Change to formulate appropriate policies towards achieving green growth and sustainable economic development for Nigeria. Buhari said the inauguration marked the commencement of the implementation of the Climate Change Act 2021 and a new chapter in the renewed response to climate change in the country. He also directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice to liaise with the Minister of Environment to initiate appropriate amends of noticeable implementation challenges inherent in the Act. Kayode Otitoju is our Arise News analyst, and he comes in at this point to help us unpack this new act and, of course, President Buhari's statements. Thank you, of course, for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
Climate change, a very serious issue, worldwide, globally impacting every single individual. Nigeria seems to be making steps in order to make themselves be on the right end of history in terms of trying to combat this. What do you have to say about President Buhari's comments and the act?
Yeah, Nigeria or any nation on the surface of the earth must key in to climate change and its problems. Climate change, why is it a problem that is now so global and everyone must do something? Initially, when God created the earth, at the end of the creation, he saw everything was good, and he nodded that everything was good. The water body, the land, the air, everything was in a good, proportion. But he created man and said man should have dominion over other living and non-living things. And so man started producing to the extent that the world population today is about 8 billion, with China and India having 1.4 apiece. So it's a lot. And so man has been altering the balance through its activities. Industrialization, urbanization, what have you. Whatever man does on either surface of the earth or on the water affects the balance. And geographers take weather, when weather is observed for 30 to 35 years, then they term the changes climate change. So the daily weather, rain, hot air, and what have you, those are weather that you observe within hours, weeks, and maybe months. But when a certain pattern is identifiable in a region for 30 to 35 years, it becomes climate. But because, of the population and, what people now do, you manufacture, you set gas to the air, you buy vehicles that run on gasoline, it emits gases without catalyzer into the air, and thereby forming what we call a greenhouse gas. And the greenhouse gas has problem with the movement between the sun, ray of the sun hitting the soil or water surface and getting back. So it traps heat in between the atmosphere and the surface of water also, and thereby increasing the general temperature. And to the extent since 1800, temperature had increased by 2 average, by 2 degree Fahrenheit, or what we can call 1.1 degrees centigrade. And this is much, because it has now led to the area of permafrost, thawing, the glaciers, that's moving ice. Now adding to the water in the sea and in the ocean. And by so doing, raising the ocean level. And when this happens, it causes flood, all things. In Ecclesiastic 1, verse 7, it says, all river flow into the sea, yet the sea never full. Right. Where the river, the water comes tighter, it returns. That is, when the water is evaporated, it comes as rain, okay? And it goes back to the sea, make the river. So there is total balance. And when human activities now impede the movement of the water, maybe by way of damming the water, we find its level. Temperature too, with the greenhouse gases, it has created greenhouse effect that is now making all the countries trying to go through green, economy. Green economy. And what's green economy? Finding alternative to greenhouse effect. Okay. And what are the alternatives? You now go through spending money on renewable energy. Right. Okay, like solar to now power what was hitherto powered by fossil fuel. Right. Okay, and by, so sorry
to interrupt. It's a very, for those who might not have understood the dynamics of climate change, I think you broke it down and dissected it in the plainest English possible. So very much thank you for that. Nigeria specifically, you were talking about all the activity that happens. There's a lot of activity that happens in Nigeria. We know that we use a myriad of fuels in order to keep our houses lit, cook our food, power our cars. We know that the whole world has now clamped down on trying to find a response to stopping what is become a huge problem. Within Nigeria, what are our specific problems? Because it's not quite like the US or the UK where they have a heat or energy crisis. Our issues are particular. So if you could discuss more about that and how we can, nip that in the bud.
The problem with us now is what happens to any part of the world affects us here. Mm-hmm. Okay? When you go to the Barbish, and you want to build more houses driving the ocean, you are more or less changing a depositional coast to erosional coast. So the water will be driven maybe from Barbish, but it will go to other area and erode instead of depositing. And that affects, everything. Now, desertification. Because of the increase in general average temperature, areas that used to be Sahel savanna are now turned to arid region. Mm-hmm. And area that was Sudan savanna are now turned to Sahel. And encroachment of savanna into the rainforest. Mm-hmm. And so you will see people who are living life of nomadic. They now find it difficult to get grass in the Sahel. And they now start moving their cattle and causing problem.
Which is the issue.
Then the water itself, because of the general change, which had been observed, which is now more frequent than the 35 or 30 years because of the man-nature struggle. So you now experience real rain flash in areas where water used to pass. Now you now have flooding even in the north because it's now unpredictable. It's no more the normal way of things. Okay, then the animals, with the exception of conservation center, there is no way you can even get monkeys and whatever. Everything, is distorted. And so Nigeria has to key in and spend money to really not to be left behind, because the whole world is taking it serious, even Putin. Because the only thing that can wipe away man from the surface of the earth, apart from nuclear war, is climate change. Because when everything is changed, okay, where you used to breathe well before, no more enough oxygen.
I mean, for example...
So can we look at the setting up of this Climate Change Council now?
Yes.
I know that during COP26, Nigeria committed to achieving net zero by 2060. So do you think this is a step in the right direction?
Yes,
are you optimistic that we can meet that target?
Because if we don't do something now, because the average humidity get depleted 1% every decade now. And that means it's a major problem. Every decade means every 10 years. Okay, so if something tangible or if necessary step is not taken now, by year 2060, the effect will be more than the flooding you are now seeing, in areas where there are, no flooding before. And food too will be difficult because, once the soil and the weather cannot support, the growing of some crops, like root crops and whatever. And the herders too, looking for water on River Niger and fighting the people and claiming, so it will be horrible. But if something is done and Nigerians are conscious of it, maybe the type of vehicles we will be buying henceforth will be vehicles that won't be emitting gases to the atmosphere. Maybe even our industries and even the source of energy will now be gravitated towards renewable, not fossil fuel, like turbine hydro, like hydrogen, what they call it, from vegetable,
right.
And water fuel. So now, I think Nigeria is even key, like the vice president was in US, and he participated in how to change the energy use to renewable, and which means even at larger scale, we may now be using solar and getting solar panels, to harness the sun, okay, and make it a replacement to, fossil fuel.
Mr. Otitoju, the word temerity is what strikes me right now. We know in our country we have a myriad of issues to tackle. There are so many, which one do you place attention to first? Playing the devil's advocate, it almost seems like climate change is a little bit more of a flashier issue. Just saying, in terms of the immediate dangers that we have in the country, even though climate change does feed into all of it, as the average Nigerian, you're thinking of what to put in your mouth to feed your kids, how to house, school, all those things. Climate change seems a little bit frou-frou, Do you think that this might be the attitude that some of our government officials might be showing, even though it shows that we are putting money where our mouth is, but in terms of actionable things that can be stopped in terms of building on land that has been sand-filled, or cutting down the palm trees that make sure that the moisture and the sand is locked and the land is able to expand and stay land and not just erode, all those kinds of things. Do you think our government has the attention span right now to deal with it?
I think so,
Yeah.
to a larger extent, because in urban centers where, the runoff, water runoff during rain or whatever, is now faster because of the cementation of the surface and whatever, instead of grass and whatever. Government are now saying, yeah, you must plant a so number of trees, around you. Apart from providing carbon dioxide and whatever, it holds the soil together, okay? Then in terms of the food itself, once we can start doing things and be serious now, like if you go to places like Kebbi or Sokoto, you will see concerted efforts being put in place in planting trees, windbreakers, and which should retard the downward movement of the Sahara. Okay? So by so doing, traditional plants that could be like rice and whatever that could be planted there, will be sustained. And in the southern part where you grow tuber and tree crops and whatever, will be sustained. So I think it should be given first attention, not secondary attention, because once there is no food, and even your shelter could be blown off by wind, okay? Climate is everything. And it's not something that you can say happens, it happens gradually. It becomes noticeable in terms of pattern, maybe over 10 years, over 20 years, over 30 years. And that's why they are putting it at 2060. By 2060, we must be able to either sustain the increase of 1 degree Fahrenheit, 1 degree centigrade that we have already achieved, which is affecting us now, making the tornadoes more destructive, and making the water rising beyond the normal level that it used to. If we can keep it there and maintain it and retard the trend through our activities and through collaboration with other countries of the world, then the whole globe the whole globe will be a better place to live. Yeah.
Now, the president is asking the National Council on Climate Change to formulate appropriate policies, towards achieving green growth and sustainable economic development. So what kind of policies do you expect them to come up with? And what impact will this have on the way we do business, especially for private entities who are also required to also cut down their own carbon emissions?
Yeah. There is Ministry of Environment. And before you start any major production, you are supposed to do environmental impact assessment. From so doing, some things are looked into, the do's and don'ts that will affect the environment, and because there is a sort of causal relationship between man's activity and the nature. Man tends to increase his wealth, do all his activities by, competing with the balance that God gave the nature, be it fauna or fauna or flora. Once you do that, it affects everything. And now that government has already set up that council to look into it, then there will be education, then there will be even laws against maybe tree cutting, killing of wild animals, digging well anyhow, all the things that we are doing, and the companies or the manufacturing companies too, there will be a sort of environmental protection, which the environmental protection agencies are already, so they will take it more serious, and the greenhouse gas will either be minimized, but anything that can make the average temperature rise to 2 degrees centigrade will mean many places will be wiped off of mankind. Like the small islands, will be covered by water. Okay? And even Lagos, there is even a study that shows that in the years also, Lagos will be covered, half of Lagos will be covered by water.
Atlantis.
You get it. So, government must continue with water. So, as it is a danger in the south, so it is a danger in the north. In the north, the Lake Chad is almost gone. It's almost gone.
It's a lot of issues that we have in this country. Much more to talk about concerning climate change. I'm sure we'll have you back to discuss this, but thank you always for your time, Mr. Otitoju.
Thank you very much.